Hi there, welcome to my channel. My name is Sarah and I am the style coach. Today's video is all about how you can find a good colour consultant. If you decide you don't want to work with me online, I get it, that's fine. I still want you to have a good experience with whomever you work with. And that's why I'm doing this video. I want you to get good and useful information from your colour consultant. Make sure that you're working with the right person and that you're getting your money's worth. Because I know from experience, people have had colours done before, they weren't happy with the results, and then they end up spending more money on a new colour consultant, still taking a little bit of a risk. So I want you to avoid all that risk and be confident with your choice if you do choose to go with somebody in person and not myself if you're not in Ireland or you're not working with me online. If you are interested in working with me, of course, do get in touch with me on my email, sarah@thestylecoach.ie, or you can visit my website, thestylecoach.ie. Before we get into that, I just want to say that the winner of the competition that I ran for an online colour consultation has been in touch, and we are underway with getting photos in and starting to work on the analysis. So thank you again to everybody who supports the channel and who entered the competition. Stick around as the channel grows. I will definitely do more competitions. And if you're liking the content, I will produce more just like it. There's more colour consultations coming your way, lots more information on style in general and how to identify your own personal style. So stick around for that. So let's get into how to identify a good colour consultant that you want to work with. Number one is, of course, you've got to determine, well, do you really want the in-person experience or do you want to go for online? Obviously, if you work online, you've got more options. If you're working with somebody in person, you're limited to the people that you've got in your area. So you may come to the conclusion, you know what, I'm just not satisfied with anybody in my area that I want to work with in person. Therefore, I'm going to work online. So you've got to figure out what you want for yourself. The online consultations are very reliable. I do lots of my consultations online, probably the majority of them, in fact. And I know many of you will testify that, you know, they're reliable, they're in depth, you can see the process clearly. And I know I've worked with many of you already. So that's step one. You've got a broader field and choice of people if you work online, but you obviously don't get the in-person experience. You've got to work out, well, what's best for you. My second tip for finding a good colour consultant is to look for demonstrations of their work. Can you see them working? Like the way I do colour consultations on my YouTube videos, you can actually see that they can demonstrate their skills and their knowledge on maybe a variety of different people. Failing that, if you can't get actual footage of them working, can you get testimonials? Try to get testimonials of places like from Google or something that the person hasn't actually maybe written them themselves. I'm not saying anybody does that, and has just placed them on their own website, for example. You want testimonials to be coming from outside sources. So do a little bit of homework first of all. See what people are saying, see if people are satisfied. My third tip is, and this is really important, I've got to say, I know that some people can get very fixated on what a person looks like and they kind of determine what colour season they'll be or sub-season they'll be simply by looking at a person. I don't believe that's good enough. You cannot look at somebody and just say they're a light summer, they're a dark winter, they're a warm autumn. It's not enough. Because I know from my experience of doing hundreds of colour consultations that the colours will always tell the real story. And just because a person looks a certain way, it doesn't mean they're going to come out as what you predicted. I've been surprised myself in the past when I put the colours on somebody and go, wow, I knew we were going in a certain direction, but I didn't realise we were going into this direction. So I let the colours do the talking. So I would say try not to get somebody who's very fixed in their ideas of, oh, you've got light hair, you've got light eyes, therefore you're light. That's not always the case. There may be other qualities like the coolness in their features or like the warmth in their features or depth or brightness in their features that is more obvious than the lightness. but it takes the colours to show that. So try not to be led by somebody who is very fixed in their thinking. Try to find somebody who is open-minded, and sometimes it's about having a conversation with this person and saying, you know, how do you do a colour consultation? How do you decide what colour suits somebody? Try to get somebody who is open-minded and not fixed in their ways. Once you are fixed in your thinking, you've closed yourself off to other possibilities, and you may be missing out on the actual real answers that you're looking for, the real conclusions. So find someone who's flexible and open-minded in their thinking. My next tip is get in touch with that person. Do you vibe with the person? Have you seen videos? Do you feel like you could sit down and have a cup of coffee with them? You want to be able to be comfortable with that person, because really you're going to be sharing with them possible photos with them online. You need to have trust with them. And if you're with them in person, you also want to feel that connection, that you can ask them questions, that it's a very open conversation and you're comfortable with that person. Make sure you vibe with that person. My next point in trying to find a good colour consultant is that if a person is charging very inexpensive rates, I would be cautious. Generally speaking, when something is so cheap, it's too good to be true. I'm the first to admit that my colour consultations are not on the cheaper side. No. There's a reason for that. I'm experienced, I'm knowledgeable, and I have lots of evidence to show that, and testimonials as well. Now, I know everybody's working with a budget, and that's fair enough, but maybe you hold off on paying the inexpensive price and save up over time until you can actually work with somebody who you trust, who you believe in, and has experience, and who can demonstrate that as well. You're much better off in the long run. I always say to people, you buy cheap, you buy twice. And I've seen that happen where people go to an inexpensive or cheap consultant, they don't get the results, and they end up having to pay more money in order for them to really find out what subseason they are. So if you're going to spend the money twice, you might as well spend it once on one good person. Next up, you'll also want to get an idea of how much detail you're actually looking for. Some consultants will only go in as far as 4 seasons, and others will go into 12 subseasons. Others will go into 16 subseasons. You've got to decide, well, at what point do I say, you know what, that's enough information for me? And also, is your consultant capable of identifying subseasons if that's what they are saying they're going to do? So decide first what kind of depth of knowledge you're looking for and whether your consultant can provide it. Another question you might ask yourself and then your consultant is, how much knowledge am I looking for here? Is it only knowledge pertaining to clothes and accessories, or do I want knowledge based on hair colour and makeup? In which case you'll probably need to shop around a little bit further and find out who's willing to offer that kind of information. Not everybody will, so decide, is it important to you, and then find out who can provide it. Something else you might want to consider as you find your colour consultant is, are they available to you post-consultation if you have any questions? Anybody I work with, I always tell them, look, some questions may not be in your mind right now, but they may come to you in a few days' time, in a few weeks' time. I'm here. Get in touch with me. Send an email. I'll be happy to answer for you. And sometimes people do get in touch a few weeks later and they have a question, and that's absolutely fine. You want to make sure that whoever you're working with, you probably will have questions in the coming weeks after your consultation. You want to make sure that that person is going to be available to you for them to answer any questions or concerns that you may have. You'll also want to find out, well, what resources they provide to you. So at the end of a consultation, at the very least, you should be walking away with a digital colour palette or maybe a physical colour palette as well. Now, I have my own thoughts on colour palette and their uses, and you can watch that in another video. I'll pop it up above. They're not the be all and end all, but they are a good reference when you are starting out new to your colour season or to your sub-season. So find out what your colour consultant can provide to you, and that will help inform your decision on who you go with. So there you have it. If you decide that you want to work with somebody in person and you'll forego working with me online, let's say, that's okay. I understand. But just I want to make sure that you're getting the right information and good information That's why I did this video. So that's it for today's video. I do hope you enjoyed it and learned something new from it, and I'll see you again next week. Take care. Bye bye.